All right, Shalom. First and foremost, let me give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bashem Yahshua Bashem Qadash. Double honors unto the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to you, sincere brothers that's out there pushing us forward, truth, and with faith. My name is Tabawa Amath of Great Millstone Northwest. This is going to be part 4 as I'm covering the prayer of priest Tazamah of Dallas, of GMS Dallas. Okay. The prayer is Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. I rebuke this unclean thought, strengthen my spirit, cleanse my mind, and help me bring every thought into obedience. Let my mind be focused on righteousness and your word. Amen. Okay. As I said, this is part 4. If you haven't seen the previous parts, I advise you to stop this video, go check out the previous parts. I'm keeping them all pretty short. All right, trying to be as direct to the point as I can be. Okay, so they're not very long. Go check them out and then come back to part 4. So that way you don't get lost or you don't miss anything. Okay. So for this one, for part 4, we're going to focus on the phrase of and help me bring every thought into obedience. And help me bring every thought into obedience. Okay. So we've already covered these other ones. Now we want to be right here and help me bring every thought into obedience. And how you would say this is Wa Azar Naya La Haba Ya'a Kol Makashaba La Ma Shemaith. Okay. Wa Azar Naya La Haba Ya La Haba Ya'a Kol Makashaba La Ma Shemaith. Okay. Which means, and help me bring every thought into obedience. Why Izar Naya means, and help me. Izar is the word for help. The Naya is for me at the end. The Wa in the beginning is for and. Okay. You could check out the word for help at the Strong's H5826. In fact, let's go ahead and let's do that using the Blue Letter Bible .org website. Okay. Not the app. We're going to check out the word for Izar, which is for help, is the Strong's H 5826. 5826. Okay. You have the word Izar. All right. Which means surrounded, protected, or aid, help, succor. In the definition, let's see how the usages is being, how it's being used within the Bible is to help, secure, supplant. Okay. And we're using this in the qual verbal stem to help. Okay. So, and help me to bring, all right, is how the statement is being used. And help me to bring, basically to bring, the words that's being used here is laha ba ya'a, laha ba ya'a. The la, I want to say the ha as well is just for the two, the la being the two, and then ha ba ya'a is for to bring. Okay. And I believe it's bring being used in the high fill verbal stem, which I talked about briefly in in another lesson. I think in part 3, I want to say we had covered the high fill verbal stem when we looked at the word for kazak. Well, for the verb to bring, all right, which is the baya'a, this is also being used in the high fill verbal stem. Let's take a look at it at the Strong's H935. Strong's H935. Taking a look at that, we got bawa'a, okay? Bawa'a, which is being used in the high fill verbal stem. Let's take a look at the definition real quick. All right, to go, come, in a wide variety of applications: abide, apply, obtain, bring, carry, certainly, so on and so forth, as you can continue to read there. In the biblical usages, all right, to go in, enter, come, all right, that's the broad sense of it. In the qual form, it just means to enter, to come in, to come, to obtain, to go, okay? But then the high fill, which is how this one is being used, it means to lead in, to carry in, to bring in, all right? Cause to come in, gather, cause to come, bring near, bring against, bring upon, to bring to pass. Okay, so what we're trying to do is bring every thought into obedience according unto the prayer. All right, so the word that's being used here is the word bawa'a. Okay, but since it's in that high fill verbal stem, it's being pronounced as habaya'a. Habaya'a. The wa is being changed to a ya, and there's a ha that's being added to the front of it, not to mean the, but as a part of this actual word. Okay, so habaya'a. All right, and then the la that's in front of it just means two. All right, next we have call, which means all or every, and we cover that one all the time. I think everybody pretty much knows what that is. You can take a look at it if you want to at the Strong's 3605. And then we have the word kashaba'a, okay, kashaba'a, which means thought. We have that come up. We covered that one, I want to say, in part 1. All right, is the first time the word thought appeared in this prayer. Maybe not part 1, part 2. In part 2, I want to say, is when is the first part that we covered. So I keep making real quick notes here, so that way I can keep track of which part was which. In part 2, we covered the word makashaba. All right, we had a ha and a ah that was added onto it. All right, for the and this, and then the auth, of course, being for the direct object marker. This one is just makashaba. It's the same thing we covered in part 2. If you watched part 2, you already got the details of this word. All right, and next we have this word for obedience. All right, which is la ma shemaith. La ma shemaith. All right. You may notice the word shemai, as that is the root word that's within this. However, shemai means to hear, even to obey. Like when you look at 1 Samuel, the 15th chapter, I want to say about verse 22 or so, where Samuel is telling Saul to obey is better than sacrifice. The word that's there for obey is the word for shemai, which shemai means to hear or to listen, okay, in its qual form. This word, however, that we're looking for is obedience. Now, I did find it within the Lashawan Qadash, or within the Hebrew, but it's even better explained in the Greek, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's take a look at this word that we found, the Strong's H number that we have for it, which is H4928. Let's take a look at that, and then I want to go to the Shar Shalom and verify it using the using the Shar Shalom, pretty much. So obedience, H4928. Let's take a look at that one. H4928. All right. Ma Shemaith, okay? Which, when you look at the definition here, it means audience, royal court, also obedience, okay? So it does mean obedience. The usages is more of subjects, body, or subjects, bodyguards, obedient ones, bodyguards, and subjects, okay? So with the usages, it doesn't give too much of a strong emphasis of the word really meaning obedience. All right, even though the root word for this, of course, mashamai, which ultimately goes back to shamai, is going to give you, pretty much the form of obedience. But this word by itself doesn't quite give the concept of obedience. And when you type in obedience, that word does not appear at all within the Old Testament. All right, it means O-B, how you spell it? O-B-E-D. There we go. Obedience. Okay, so as you see, this word itself, obedience, does not appear in the Old Testament at all. And the first time you actually see it is in the New Testament underneath Romans, the first chapter, Romans chapter 1, verse 5. You also have You also have like Romans 5 and 19, 1 Peter 1 and 2, 2 Corinthians 10 and 10 and 6, or 10 and 5, 10 and 6, okay? Hebrews 5 and 8. You see it there, but you don't see it in the Old Testament. But luckily for us, we do have our ways to look up Lashawan Qadash within the New Testament. So just to ensure that this word being used, hold on, let me go back. Just to ensure that this word that we used here for obedience, which was the H4928, pull it back up, just to ensure that this word mashamith is a good word to use for obedience. We're going to check it out using the Shar Shalom, okay, which is an excellent Bible tool. Okay, let's come up here. The Shar Shalom. I can probably close some of these out. I don't need all those open. The Shar Shalom. I want to say it's actually, the website was right there. .us. All right. If you don't have this, I advise you to go ahead and bookmark this page, so that way you can pull it up whenever you need it, as it does provide the New Testament, and it provides it where you can reference it in the Lashawan Qadash itself. So a couple of the scriptures that was used for the word obedience when we looked it up in the blue letter was Romans chapter 1 verse 5. Let's take a look there. Romans chapter 1, and let's look at verse 5, which says, "Through whom we received grace and apostleship unto obedience of faith among all nations for his name's sake." Okay. Now the word that we're looking for is going to be right here. Ma shemaith. You see that? Ma shemaith. That's the exact same word we have written right here. Ma shemaith. All right. For obedience. Okay. Just in case that one's not good enough, you may think that that's a fluke. We can take a look at another scripture. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 2. Okay. 1 Peter chapter 1 is right here, verse 2. According to the foreknowledge of the Most High, the Father, and the sanctification of the Spirit unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahushua Mashiach, grace to you and peace be multiplied. So we're looking for this word for obedience. And then we have it right here. Okay. Ma shemaith. Okay. So that's 2. Let's get one more example. Let's get that. Let's get 2 Corinthians. What was it? 2 Corinthians 10. I want to say 5 and 6 is what we saw there. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. Scroll down here to chapter 10. That's chapter 9. Here we go. Chapter 10, verse 5 and verse 6. Casting down all imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of the Most High, and to bring every thought into captivity to the obedience of Yahushua. Verse 6, and to bring in readiness to avenge all disobedience when your obedience shall be made full. So there's 2 examples of where we should be able to find the same word for obedience, which is Mashamaith. All right, I don't know why my brain was tweaking out for a quick second. Mashamaith. All right. So looking in verse 5 for this word Mashamaith, you got it right here. La Mashamaith. Okay. La Mashamaith. And then also in verse 6, it says disobedience, and then it says obedience, but we have right here Mashamaith come. Mashamaith come. Okay. Mashamaith come. So Mashamaith works perfectly well for the word obedience. All right. So that's what's being used. La Mashamaith, which means to obedience. All right. La Mashamaith, obedience. So the statement of and help me bring every thought into obedience. Wa azar naya la habaya. La habaya. Call makashaba la mashamaith. La mashamaith. All right. So pretty much that's all I'm going to cover for part 4. Tune in for part 5 as we finish out the prayer of the priest Tazamah of GMS Dallas. And we wrap this whole thing up. Shalom.